It's excellent. Only the best for you.
Yeah, my name is Elijah Israel. I work along with Rose Thompson and BME, but I'm also a poet and writer and artist and musician. And I'm glad that I didn't ask the question I had in mind 10 minutes ago because I didn't like the context of it. But it's okay.
There you go.
It's a serious question,
okay.
but I didn't want that context. And it's regarding, a few minutes ago you mentioned the word shot down, and not in a literal sense,
right,
but rhetorically. And then just now you mentioned the word fear and the fears. And I was privileged to support Barack. I got emails from him and his campaign team when he was doing his thing, and of course he knew, and I knew that I couldn't give any finance because I'm not an American citizen, but I supported him like many other people like that. And I'm not a naturally fearful person, I'm a glass half full person, but because of the American environment and the fears and the cocktail of emotions and political currents that flow over there, as you said, people get shot down, literally. And I dreaded what would happen in the aftermath of his election. Is this man going to get shot down? The amazing thing for me is that he survived his full term. Thankfully. You see what I mean about context? So, with drones going overseas, I didn't want to ask a question, is Barack Obama going to get shot down? I didn't want that. So my question to the point is, I know that you're not representative of America or Obama or whatever, but as an American person over here that we can talk to,
sure,
I'm just asking you, what's your barometer of a feeling in America? Just ask plain, why don't you think that he was shot down? And what is the feeling going forward? Is it optimistic or not so? And I really don't want to speak prophetically. You get my...
I understand what you're saying. It's remarkable that he wasn't, and I can tell you this as somebody who studies American political history, the attempts on his life are 7 times greater than his predecessor. They've been foiled, many of them. It's 7 times. I have a friend who works for the FBI and some others who work in D.C., Secret Service detail, and they told me they've had to work harder than any other group in generations just to ward off all of the attacks on him. In Arizona, where I live, it's not uncommon for people to show up within 75, because in Arizona, anyone can carry a weapon. Anyone, even AR-15s.
What are those?
It's a semi-automatic military assault rifle that can do lots of damage to large crowds. They'll show up at he's come to speak a couple of times and they've had to sort of shoot some people away. But in Arizona, they can't make them go all the way away, so they're near there. So he's lived in a very precarious situation. He actually has demonstrated far more courage than under the context. He's a strong man. Let's just put it that way. The tenor and tone of the United States right now is one that's very scary. It's something that a lot of us are talking about. I'm going back, the week I get back, I'm speaking in 2 forums about civil dialogue and the sort of coarsening of our culture. Back in the 19th century, it wasn't uncommon for congressional leaders to get into fights on the floor of Congress and to shout at one another. That was 100 and something years ago. Now we're supposed to be having moved past that, but we're regressing to that level. And I think his presidency has a lot to do with it, because there are a lot of folks who are blaming everything that's wrong with America on him.
Yeah.
Could you explain the visit he made with the governor of Arizona at the airport?
Oh, yeah. I live in one of the most conservative states in the country. And he came to town. He had been embroiled in an ongoing rift with our governor, a particularly Republican governor, very conservative, about issues of immigration. Arizona passed lots of draconian laws that targeted people of Latin American heritage for detainment, deportation based upon their immigration status. And oftentimes they stopped people that just looked like an immigrant, right? That included some of my family members. And Barack Obama, the federal government, sued to stop that from happening, and the federal government won, which means Barack Obama is not a friend of the governor of Arizona. And so he arrived, stepped off of Air Force One in an airport in Phoenix. She greeted him, as is the custom, with the mayor of Phoenix, who's actually a close friend of mine. I didn't know he was going to be the mayor 10 years ago, but he is now. That has its benefits. But you also find out the limitations of friendship, too. But anyway, so they met him on the tarmac. Obama comes down the plane. She reaches her hand. No, before she extends her hand, she hands him a handwritten note. This is a handwritten note that hasn't been screened by the Secret Service, that she just hands to the President of the United States. And in it, it's her basically saying she wants to talk to him about his position on immigration. She doesn't like this and this, and they need to sit down and talk. Well, in the American system, that's really unprecedented for a governor to demand, let alone ask for an audience with the President of the United States on what was supposed to be basically a goodwill mission to Arizona. He wasn't campaigning or anything. And so the media just jumped on it because he took the note, looked at it, and handed it aside and started to walk away. And she put her finger in his face. And she started doing this, you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The mayor was stricken. He didn't know how to handle it. I was upset because at no point did the Secret Service get closer to the president. This may be an American governor, but, so if I was Barack Obama, I would have had a little conversation with the Secret Service people. Oh no, she's a white woman, and so the media jumped on it, and she also had a book coming out, right, about her sort of maverick style and bucking the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. And she was very proud of that. And this was sort of a rallying cry among the conservatives in Arizona. She stood up to the president. Many of us said, no, you disrespected the office of the presidency. You denigrated it and lowered it. Because people have disagreed with the president for years in very stern ways. But there's certain protocols that you don't do. One of the reasons why the office of the president has remained as sort of revered and as clustered as it has is because even if you disagree with the individual in the White House, you don't do certain things. And that was sort of part and parcel of the relationship. So even our elected officials are shouting at the president. They're waving their fingers at the president. They're disrespecting the president, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people on the left are hesitant to criticize, because he's not only getting criticism from the right, people are referring to him as a monkey. They're describing Michelle Obama, the width of her hips and the Africanness of her body, as if there's something bad with that. They're criticizing the children. They're rendering him like a monkey in the newspapers. Some people have rendered him like a witch doctor with a bone through his nose. People just refer to him as Hussein, like emphasizing the middle name. And it's sort of off the charts. The decibels are off the charts. And a lot of black folks are saying, including myself, we're saying, hey, we have been respectful of the office of the presidency even when we were enslaved.
Yes.
If anybody had a reason to shake their finger in the face of somebody, it was us. But we understood that the presidency, the symbol of the presidency, and our documents of freedom were not about one individual. It was about something greater than that. But he's not even given that.
So when he gave the barnstorming speech at the 2004 Democrat convention in Boston, saying that there were no two Americas, there's no blue America, no red America, there's only one United States of America. Did he get that fundamentally wrong?
Yep. Yes, he did. And I think he believed that at the time. I really do think that he believed that. But as he said, he's learned a lot, and I think those are one of the things. You got to have an ego to even run for the presidency. I mean, seriously, you got to look in the mirror and you got to be able to say, I can win the president of the United States. And that's a good, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but you got to be able to look in that. And you have to know that doing that, even no matter what color you are, you're putting your life on the line and the life of your family and everybody around you. So you're making a pretty gutsy choice to even take that on. So, you know, but I think that he really believed that. But he understands it now. I think that he thought by force of goodwill and charisma and altruism that he could do a lot more than what he wanted to do. But what he's run into is what black people in particular, and other women and other poor folks and other people of color have run into since the dawn of the Republic, and that is staunch opposition. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. That's why I have hope and change. So I'm going to begin with the beginning of the Republic, the first 15 minutes of the lecture, and I'm going to talk about this yin and yang, this ebb and flow between hope and progress here, but massive resistance, right? And moving forward counterclockwise at the same time. There's always some movement forward, but there's always a massive resistance and things that we regret along the way. That's what's defined our history.